Wait, free parking downtown Slow? Just park in the new structure at Napomo and Palm. And dine at La Esquina, Mama's Meatball or Mistura. And get 2 hours of validated parking. Free parking downtown Slow. Park, eat, validate, done. Learn more at slowfreeparking.com.
You're up and at 'em.
Tractor systems are offline.
We are Beyond FM.
Beyond FM.
The future of broadcasting is here.
Is here.
Up and at 'em with Adam Montiel. It's community content from Concentrate. It's Up and at 'em with Adam Montiel.
Some say life is where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Yes, some say life is just where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Only to start again.
Happy Thursday. What's good? Thank you for being up and at 'em. My name is Adam Montiel. Coming up on the show today, we are stepping inside the mind of Daniel Stamm. He's the director of, The Last Exorcism, Pray for the Devil, and the new supernatural horror film, soon in theaters, Lockbox. This was a weird one to get into because I tend to, especially horror films that delve into this, I don't want to F with that. You know what I mean? But I'm interested in horror cinema. And this new movie just is, it's in his career is really something. Daniel says the scariest movies, they don't begin with the monster. They begin with the character, the wound, that one crack that lets the darkness in. We're going to talk about why horror only works when we care. What's that mean? How grief can actually make someone vulnerable to forces they may not otherwise let inside, and why being believed can sometimes be a person's first real chance at survival. And even if horror isn't usually your thing, this is a really interesting conversation that touches on fear, empathy, human nature, and what we all do when life finds our blind spot. And this chat goes somewhere I didn't expect, certainly. Daniel opens up about his own nightmares. Weird. His fascination with the human side of evil, his time studying Buddhist psychology, and the responsibility he feels when an audience gives him 90 minutes of its finite life, right? To be given that time in a theater. Plus, how do we turn the minimalist terror of Knifepoint Horror into a movie without stealing the monster the listener already created in their own head? Daniel Stamm, really interesting dude, just a talented film director. Daniel Stamm opens the lunchbox. Good God, the Lockbox. Yeah, Lockbox sounds a lot scarier than like in theaters now. Lunchbox. What am I doing? Saying lunchbox. Sorry, Daniel. We'll talk about Lockbox when he is up and at 'em in just a matter of minutes. I got the one headline, we talk about it once a year, where, the names come out, ridiculous baby names. Seems like everyone now wants to name their kids something original, right? Something that no one else has. Last year might have taken the cake for the most ridiculous baby names of all time, according to Social Security Administration data. The list, you ready? Of the most unusual names that were only given to 10 or fewer children in 2005. Let's go. For girls, Tsunami. Tsunami is a name. A Maybelline. Infant girl. Yeah, just the word infant and girl together as one compound word. Infant girl. Beretta. Aloe. Mattel. Willow Dean. It's not a horrible one. Willow Dean, all one word. Luxury. Sounds like something Kim Kardashian would name her kid. Linen. Name your kid Linen. Earth. Elysium. And Ethereal. Those, the biggest names for girls last year that were the most weird, like the most rare. You ready for boys? Here we go. Top 10 boy names that were the most weird only appeared at least less than 10 times, courtesy of Social Security data. Howdy. That's the number one on this. Howdy. I love it. Papa. Okay. 3, just the number 3, but I guess they spelled it out. props, just spelling it out. Matrix Decree Gator. Chaos. Oh, that's great. Just name the boy Chaos right there. What are you going to get then? Check out the next one. Talk about, manifestation, self-fulfilling prophecy. You name your kid Chaos. How about you name your kid Demon? That's right there next on this list. Utah, Billion, Ferrari, Oxford, Corduroy. That's not a bad name, Corduroy. I don't know why it's weird, but I like it. Call him Cord. And then finally, Rayon. Those are the big names. All right. Weird. Yeah, no one's doing just like, okay, Steve, or, All right, coming up, before we get into our chat with the one and only horror film master director of cinema, Daniel Stamm. Let me tell you about my friends at the Paso Robles Distillery Trail. A brand new episode of The Pour is out now. We're talking all about this because it is this weekend, August 7th through 9th, your invitation to experience a whole other side of Paso producers. 12 boutique distilleries are opening their doors with special tastings, cocktails, food, live music classes, demos, all kinds of stuff. Also, you get to meet the makers behind the scenes. No tickets required. Just pick up a map at any participating distillery or go to PasoRoblesDistilleryTrail.com or hit up the Paso Visitor Center, plan your route, start exploring. It's that easy. Visit at least 6 distilleries over the weekend, get your map stamped, and you'll earn a free limited edition Paso Distilleries shot glass. Got this like leather holder. It's pretty cool. Also, and look, if you're a spirit lover, you want to go even deeper, learn about the optional copper card. It pays for itself over and over again. It's includes a free tasting at every participating distillery on the trail. Awesome. What a great way to kind of accentuate the weekend, but it's certainly not necessary, and it never expires. Use it anytime. So make a weekend of it. The Paso Robles Distillery Trail weekend. Of course, sip responsibly. Bring a driver. Discover the Paso Robles Distillery Trail August 7th through 9th. Again, learn more at PasoRoblesDistilleryTrail.com.
It's Up and Adam with Adam Montiel.
All right, Daniel Stamm has spent his career making horror movies that do more than make you jump. It makes you care first, then makes you afraid. He's the director of The Last Exorcism, Pray for the Devil, and now Lockbox. It's a new supernatural horror film inspired by the cult podcast Knifepoint Horror. We talk about the craft of fear, the difference between horror on screen and horror built through sound and imagination, and how you adapt a story like Knifepoint without losing the monster the audience has already created in its own head. But there's a chat about grief, trauma, faith, empathy, and the dangerous things that can find us through the cracks we don't even know are there. Horror cinema. Can't wait to break it down. Daniel Stamm, my man, thank you so much for being up and Adam.
Thanks for having me, Adam. Good to meet you.
The best horror is rarely just about the thing in the dark, right? It's kind of about maybe the wound that leaves the door unlocked, right? Like what precipitated it being allowed to get there. And in Lockbox, grief and trauma aren't simply backstory. They feel like kind of part of the architecture, which is incredibly dark too. When you begin building a horror film, do you find the monster first? Do you find the human first who's got the wound that kind of let the monster in?
I always go from the characters because I originally wasn't a horror movie director, which I think helped me a lot. I was more of a drama thriller guy, which is all characters. And so is horror, actually, just that I think people forget that because it's almost as if horror sequences live in isolation, which is so not true. Like, you can't make a horror sequence work if people don't care about the character first, And it's hard. How do you make an audience care about a character? And maybe one of the simplest shortcuts is the audience loves someone who loves someone or something, someone who cares. A character who doesn't care, the audience will not care about. So you now have to build that. Movie making is like one big mathematical function. So now how do you find what they care about? And if they care about something, that immediately comes with history. It doesn't work without history. So what is that history? And that is what's then opening the door. You're already in the same well that you draw the trauma out of, that you draw the demons of the past that are rearing their head. It's all like one thing. You just have to connect the dots in a certain way.
Grief creates absence, but it also creates vulnerability, and it kind of changes what we notice, maybe what we believe, and sometimes what we're kind of willing to let through the front door, right? Do you see Lockbox as a story about evil entity pursuing someone, or is it about grief making people emotionally reachable by forces that they might not otherwise resist, or that they might otherwise resist, is what I should say?
I think that's not a contradiction at all. I think it's exactly both. One makes you vulnerable because like the force, the evil that is pursuing their victim is kind of preying on that and looking for exactly those cracks. And then the question is, what caused those cracks, and can the cracks be healed? Which is very much, if you think about it on a more abstract level, exactly what drama does. You bring your characters to the breaking point, and then you see if they can survive it or not, if they heal or if they perish. And horror is just kind of the heightened version of that. I went to to a Buddhist temple for a while because I'm in a laundromat. They had a postcard, Buddhist psychology. So I was like, I'll check out Buddhist psych. I'm not a religious guy, but Buddhist psychology, sure. It was fascinating. And I went for a year or something. And at some point, the group went around and everybody said what they were doing for a living. And I had gone to this Buddhist temple for a year. And now suddenly I had to say, I make horror movies.
Oh my gosh.
And I went home that day and I was like, I never had the feeling I had to justify it in front of myself. But for the first time, I was like, I have to define for myself why I'm okay doing this with my life and why this is well spent. What do I do? What's the bigger picture here? And kind of what I ended up on is that horror movies, you make them for what it does to the audience after the movie, not during the movie. During the movie, you make them as terrified as possible. After the movie, they realize that their own life isn't as bad and as terrifying as it seemed before they went in, when they walked to the car after the theater, And the other thing that it gives them is this breath of I'm still alive, which I think is a muscle in the human psychology that is not exercised unless in war or something terrible, but we are the top of the food chain. We don't survive tiger attacks usually on a day-to-day basis, So we don't even have that feeling of catharsis and of having made it through the nightmare on a normal basis. And horror movies kind of provide that. And when I came across that, I was like, oh, that I can justify, that I can defend. That's okay to kind of, spend your life on. So yeah, it is about the trauma as much as it is about the darkness. You kind of need both, because the trauma is what connects it to real life, what connects it to the experience of your audience. And the darkness, the evil, is the antagonistic force that most people don't encounter in their own life.
And one of the most frightening positions a person can be in is knowing that there's something terrible real while everyone else around them just sees instability, right? So what interests you about the moment when compassion really it requires us to believe someone whose story sounds like nuts?
Yeah, that goes back to how do you make the audience care for the main character? Yeah. Because exactly what you are saying, I think someone who is not believed is in such a vulnerable position, no matter what the reason, something that they are experiencing, something that is breaking them apart, to not find help because you are not believed. If you then find the one person that believes you, oh my God, makes such a difference. You suddenly are stabilized in this world again, and you can breathe again, and that compassion, exactly what you're saying, is what makes that happen, which also happens to be a great tool for making the audience care about the person who cares. So it's again all one equation.
We talk a lot about love as comfort, but Lockbox seems interested in love as exposure. A dangerous decision to stand behind someone when every instinct tells you to just get the hell out of there. Is Ellen's greatest strength that she protects Winthrop, or is it that the choice is it the choice that makes her the most vulnerable?
I think again both. But we always wanted to have our protagonist at a place where she is just one step braver, one step more empathetic than we as the audience are. That we kind of, it's the equivalent of this cliche with the horror movie where you show, don't go into the basement, don't go.
Yeah.
We wanted the same here. And almost create a little bit of a mystery of why is she capable of doing this? And we then later learn that there is a moment in her backstory that she's carrying with herself as guilt, that she was not there for Winthrop when it mattered, and that might be one of the reasons why his life has taken the path it has taken. So she's not just a saint, but she is working out of her own demons of the past and out of a quiet faith. I always loved how this movie treated her faith, that she is a woman of faith, but it's a quiet faith. It's not something like in other exorcism movies where it's like, now here comes the person who is in daily commune with God or something like that. It's not that at all. She doesn't talk about it. It's not a subject until it matters. And I think that's how most people, again, I myself, I'm not religious, but how most people that do believe in God that I know live their lives. They don't throw that on you the second you meet them. It's not in the forefront of every decision they make in life. It's just a part of their life that works in the background. And that's what we wanted to do with her.
I'm so fascinated because when you say like, I'm not religious, yet you're, we talked about like the Buddhist temple, and you have to go to all these people and say, I make horror movies for a living. It's almost like I interview a lot of chefs and a lot of maybe wine. Sometimes chefs are they're a little odd. Look, if you do radio for 25 years, you're a little off. Is there something about a horror film producer and maker, and you're not religious, but you must be fascinated in these threads and down these lanes in your head anyway, a little bit, right? I don't know.
100%, of course. Like I'm a big true crime fan, for example, because just to imagine, I have nightmares I'm narcoleptic, and that comes with a lot of nightmares. So I have a lot of nightmares, and in most of the nightmares, I am not the victim. I am the perpetrator. Like I'm the serial killer. I'm the one that is trying to get away, And the thought of you have a secret that you have to hide from the world that is this terrifying and that would destroy you, but you destroy everybody else. It must be the loneliest place in the world, And that there is that kind of evil out there, I find such a fascinating aspect of the human condition that I could endlessly just, read about serial killings and all that stuff. And so that maybe is something that echoes over into the horror movies, that the dissection of evil is kind of an interesting thing and what it brings out in people.
That's so interesting. You're narcoleptic and have nightmares?
Yeah, a lot.
Does your doctor ever say like, look, if we want to stop the nightmares, maybe we got to stop making all the scary movies?
Well, with the narcolepsy, that's just a genetic thing. Doesn't come from the out. Yeah, that doesn't come. That just kicks in your youth. When I was 16, from one day to the other, I suddenly was always tired. And that's just what it is. You don't die from it. It doesn't hurt. So it could be worse. But it's not I don't advise it. I don't recommend it.
But what about like just you're driving and all of a sudden, can you just fall asleep?
I can just fall asleep. And when I was diagnosed here in the US, I went to a sleep lab again and they came up with diagnosis. They said, and now, unfortunately, we have to ask you for your driver's license.
Ooh.
Because they are... And I said, well, I'm not going to give you my driver's license. And the doctor grinned and said, I thought that's what you were going to say, but I had to ask. And that was the end of it. And since then, I'm driving. And I have a good enough feeling when I'm getting tired and when I have to pull over and take a little nap or something. But I have fallen asleep at a traffic light and woken up from the honking cars behind me.
Wow, what a trip. Well, I'm so glad that you're good and kind of have a handle on that. I want to talk about the audience imagination, specifically through the lens of Knifepoint Horror, because Knifepoint became it became beloved, but like through restraint, right? A voice, a story, enough empty space for the listener's imagination to become the production designer. Now we're all using our imagination. When you adapt minimalist audio horror into a visual medium, how do you show audiences enough to satisfy them without stealing the monster that they'd already carried inside their own heads?
That is such a good question. And luckily I'm not the first person whose job that is. The first person who has to deal with that stuff is the writer. Because that is exactly the thing about Knifepoint. It gives you two amazing a first act that creates great characters, a second act that really ratchets up the suspense and the intrigue and the mystery. And then it says, and now you guys deal with it. Have a good day. And it tortures you over the next week because it wasn't brought to a conclusion. It's still out there. The evil that Soren Narnia, the writer, established is still with you and it doesn't let you go. But that is not what works in a movie. So suddenly you are sitting there and you have to come up with a third act that does justice to everything else. That's not just a generic tagged on thing that brings everything to a movie conclusion. And we always knew from the very beginning that's either where we succeed or we fail, because that is our big contribution on the film side. In the translation to the movie, it's in the third act. Does the third act work and doesn't feel like an alien piece that someone has tagged on, but brings all these strings to a conclusion? And that's the hardest thing. And that's on the writer's shoulders. And Justin Joffe, the writer, luckily did an amazing job with that one.
Let's open the lockbox with some rapid fire questions. I'm excited, Daniel. A locked door or an open one? More frightening?
Locked, of course. Oh.
A whisper behind you or complete silence?
Whisper.
The supernatural explanation or the psychological one?
For me, 100% the psychological one, which is contradictory because a lot of my movies don't have the psychological answer. I'm much more intrigued by something that would be possible in this world. And also for a movie, not to go into, because rapid fire, I understand, but in a movie, you want the audience involved. And that means they have to be able to predict and to guess and to be right or wrong. But that only works if they are experiencing the story within a set of rules that they're familiar with. The supernatural, if in the third act suddenly the aliens come from the sky, it's a cheat. It's like, oh, I've been playing this game with you, and suddenly you're introducing last-minute rules. It's not satisfying. Just like in a whodunit, it's much more powerful if all the pieces have been shown to you in advance and you failed at putting it together. It's much more powerful than,
Great point. A character who knows too much or one who remembers nothing?
Oh, I have the worst memory in the world, and I remember nothing. There's no Memento has done it really well, but other than that, a character who knows too much, I think.
The scariest room in an ordinary house, Daniel?
Basement, of course.
Oh, that's so good. A horror rule that you love to break?
A horror rule that I love to break? The feeling that characters take a back seat in a horror movie, I think is very harmful and crazy and nonsense.
What was the first movie that made you afraid to turn out the lights?
Psycho, because my crazy parents showed me Psycho when I was 8. I don't know what they were thinking. And it's to this day, it's the most terrifying movie ever produced in my mind.
Yeah, I thought the original Exorcist, I saw that as a teenager, and it was just like, it still was, because of course from the 70s, but it was freaky. These paranormal ones they're wild. This one, man, would you rather spend one night in the world of The Last Exorcism, Pray for the Devil, or Lockbox?
Oh, what a great question, Adam. Probably The Last Exorcism, because evil seemed the most selective there.
Yeah.
And if I'm not the target group, I think that's an okay world to spend it. If you are the target group, you are screwed in all three of these worlds.
All right, and complete this sentence. Evil always enters through...
Evil always enters through the blind spot and the denial and the spot. Even in psychology, right? Whatever you don't shine light on, that is where stuff festers. And I think that's what horror movies are largely about.
I love this chat. You've spent your career, Daniel, asking audiences to kind of enter dark rooms voluntarily. And then when they emerge from Lockbox, what do you hope they understand about the people beside them? Not just the thing that they may be hiding behind them.
Adam, I love your questions. That is so good because that's what you always try to do, right? You try to find some aspect of the human condition that the audience recognizes and sees themselves in. And there is this theory that like nothing is more intriguing than someone telling you something about yourself that you didn't know. Ooh. And that's kind of what you try with every movie. But in a more broader sense, I'm so aware of what a responsibility it is that people give you an hour and a half of their life. I mean, life is finite, right? There are only so many experiences you can have in that life. An hour and a half is a good chunk to have a full experience. You can fall in love in an hour and a half. You can jump off a building in an hour and a half. You can do a lot of stuff in an hour and a half. That they say, I will park my life to visit your world that you have created for me. And I trust that I will come out and not say, this was a waste of my time. This was a worthwhile hour and a half. That is all I'm trying to do. Like if I can do that and they walk to their car and they say, I'm glad I saw this movie. That was well spent. I've done my job. That's all it takes.
Daniel Stamm, unbelievable. What's your favorite thing? What's like your go-to grab at craft services?
Oh, I'm a vegetarian, which I always feel bad about because the great crafty people and catering people, they immediately switch to vegetarian. And I'm like, there are 100 other team members and crew members that are not vegetarian.
Yeah.
But I'd probably say Snickers bars for some reason, because I'm always I'm always nervous on set and afraid, which comes from the German mindset that always expects the world to go up in flames tomorrow or the next scene. I'm always like, oh, the last scene was great. The next scene is going to be terrible. Right. So I'm just stress eating the entire time. And Snickers is like the thing that the fastest like hits the spot where it needs to hit and kind of gives me something that makes me go back out on set and do the next scene.
Snickers satisfies. That's an ad right there. They should pay you for that.
That's right.
Make sure they put those that the company sends them to you. Mars sends them to your set. Look, this was a lot of fun, man. I can't thank you enough for the time, Daniel. I really enjoyed the back and forth and getting to know you. And without this like 9-minute thing, I'm really thankful we had some more time. I think it made for a great chat.
Thank you so much, Adam. I had a lot of fun. Your questions are some of the greatest questions I've ever heard. Really cool.
That means more. That makes my day. You made my day. Thanks a lot, Daniel. Thanks for being up and Adam, sir.
Have a good one, Adam.
Start again.
Daniel Stamm. This is a smart, fascinating, honest chat. Really enjoyed him kind of taking us inside the craft of fear, the human wounds beneath the monsters, and the responsibility that you feel when an audience hands you 90 minutes of its life. Lockbox. It's available now. You can check it out wherever you watch your movies. Unreal. Daniel, thank you, my man, for being up and at 'em. All right, got to go from horror movies to The Mountain Air. I do love them. I'm appreciative that they're up and at 'em, supporting local media. And these guys are just fantastic. First of all, great people, great owners, great neighbors, great parents, a great couple. I love being able to talk about a business like this. 1975 is when The Mountain Air first opened its doors. Over 50 years, they've been helping locals get outside at all skill levels. Hiking, camping, climbing when there's snow, hitting up the snow. These guys are just awesome. And why would you go around the hill to a big ass box store when you can go into someplace that makes you feel real right when you walk in? It's not transactional, it's dialed in, it's organic, it's holistic. Just a couple doors down, they got their store, The Switchback. Check them out. Buy and sell used gear. TheMountainair.com, also TheSwitchback.com. Check out both those websites. Also, give them a follow on Insta. It's completely free. And when you head in there, and I hope you do, when you head in there, let them know you heard them on Up and At 'em. And thank them for not just keeping it local with who they serve. They've been doing that for 50 years over, but keeping it local with the dollars that they earn too. They're promoting and supporting, rather. They're supporting local media and local broadcasting. So love them for it. The Mountain Air, San Luis Obispo. Well, I'd be a fool if I didn't tell you and remind you to get into Benny's Pizza for some happy hour tonight. 4:30 to 6:30, Monday through Friday, 3.5 domestic cans, $2 off premium beer and wines. Food that just hits the spot. Get all up in there for lunch, too. Pizza, salad, slice, Coke, boom, out. 40 minutes, back at work, baby. Yeah. Love my friends at Benny's Pizza, Upper Monterey, 1601 Monterey Street, San Luis Obispo, 439-3838. Benny's Pizza, San Luis Obispo. All right. Much thanks again to Daniel Stamm. Thanks to you for rating, reviewing, subscribing to the show wherever you listen to it, sharing with a friend. You just have no idea how much it helps broaden the community and helps others discover what we're doing here with the show. So thank you. Moonshiner Collective, stream them wherever you get your music, moonshinercollective.com. Just posted the video of Elise. I'll get to Dan next, but ladies first. I just posted the video on YouTube of Elise performing that song Cozy in its entirety. So check it out. She does a lovely job. She's a lovely young woman. And Dan is a lovely young man. Okay. We'll get his song up next, the one that he did, the one that he performed. What else? Yes, the Under the Moon concert series for August, it is sold out, but that's why we gave you a little performance of it yesterday here on the show. Go back and listen to it if you haven't, and then go to moonshinercollective.com, get tickets for the next Under the Moon concert series, because that one will likely sell out. All right, you know, we are recorded at my SlowCal Studios in the heart of San Luis Obispo County, California. SlowCal, where the wine is world class, the people are real, and life is too beautiful to rush. Returns well taken. Visit slowcal.com. That's SLOCAL, slowcal.com. Well, till tomorrow, when it will be Friday. Super exciting. Can't wait for it. Till then, I'm Adam Montiel. Thank you for being up and Adam.
Some say life's where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Only to start again. Let's start again. We'll start again. Let's start again.